today I'm going to show how you can make a C or C++ program that has some graphics using this cool library RayLib.com. And I made this little cookie clicker game where you're trying to click on the cookies and not the monster. And I can walk you through that in this short video. When you go to RayLib.com, they've got a lot of examples and they've got a cheat sheet section where you can see things like the built-in constants that you can use for colors in your games. The way you install it might be the most intimidating part, so it depends on what platform you're on. There's a lot of support for different platforms. I'm on a Mac, so I clicked on this Mac link and it took me to the GitHub repository, but you may be on a Windows machine or a Linux machine, and then you're going to follow these quick start instructions. I'm going to hope that you can make it through that part and jump straight over into the coding. We'll start with a #include statement for the raylib.h, and then just like any C or C++ program, you're going to put a main function. That's where the action starts. We need to initialize our window. We'll do that with an init window function. Because I'm using Visual Studio Code, look at these cool tooltips, and it's helping me as I'm typing and telling me how many arguments the function needs. Like this function needs the width and the height, and then whatever I want to be the title of the window. After you've initialized the window, a lot of these programs are going to have while loops because they're going to keep running until the user hits escape on the keyboard or they hit the X in the upper left corner of the windows. So while not window should close, we're going to go through this loop and run the game. And in this Hello World version, the game isn't really much, it's just displaying some text. So we'll begin drawing, and then we're going to set the background. I'll just pick blue, and I'll put up here the cheat sheet with all those color codes if you want one of those pre-built color pound defines. If you want to try a different color, then I want the text, click on the food. I'll start out with making this a cookie clicker game, and then I'll bring in some more graphics so you can click on pizza and popcorn and then try not to click on the monsters. And then here I've got the X and Y position, that's the size of the font, and the color of the font I want. We'll end drawing. We'll close the window and go ahead and run it. And look at our title up here, the text, click the food, and then we can hit escape or the X. Let's move this on to the cookie clicker game. We'll include a few more headers, statements for standard lib, for srand and rand. Time, if I want to seed the random number generator with time, because the rand function is a pseudo random number generator, and you might find yourself getting the same sequence of random numbers if you don't seed the random number generator. Instead of hard coding with 800 and 600, I'm going to use pound defines and macros, and that way when I'm deciding where I want the cookie to randomly appear, I'll also be able to use that screen width and screen height. I've put a PNG, a graphic of a little cookie, and I'll put it in the same folder as my program here that I'm writing, which is I have it as a .cpp, but really I'm just using C code. I thought I might be using some C++ code, so I've got it as a CPP, but it's really just C code. I want to initialize the cookie's position on the screen, and I'll pick a random number, but I want it in the range of 0 to the screen width, but then I don't want my cookie to be going a little bit off the screen, so I'm going to subtract the cookie width from that. And then for the Y position, same kind of thing, is a random position between 0. 0, 0 is the top left of my screen. And then screen width, screen height would be the bottom right corner. So somewhere in that range is where I want to put that cookie. we can draw the texture, and if we want to put that cookie on the screen, and then we need to pass in the X position, the Y position, and then the color for that cookie. My image already has a color that I'm happy with, so I'll just do Ray White as the background, and the image will show up just the way it does if I look at the image. With C and C++, you need to handle the memory management. So if you're allocating memory for this texture, if you're loading that texture, you need to unload the texture when you're done. I ran it a couple different times so you could see that the cookie was in a different spot every time, but we want it to be moving as we're playing the game. So instead of like lots of cookies on the screen, it's really one cookie that's moving around. So inside the while loop, I want to generate a new X and a new Y to move the cookie. And this is the right idea, but I'm going to notice the cookie moves way, way too fast for somebody to be able to click on it. So I don't really want the cookie to move every single time through the while loop. I'm going to keep track of the last time I moved the cookie by getting the current time. And then I'll put an if statement around this moving the cookie. So if you get the current time and you subtract it from the last time you moved the cookie, and you can decide how fast you need your users to be. For debugging, I'm going to say 2 seconds to let myself click on the cookie, but when I really want somebody else to play the game, I'll probably change it to 1 second. Once you move the cookie, you can update the last time you've moved the cookie, and now 1,000, 2, 1,000, the cookie's going to move around the screen. That's cool, but what about if the user clicks on it? Instead of really making the cookie disappear, I'm just going to change the alpha of the cookie. So I'll make a variable for the cookie color, and that Ray White is going to go in a variable. And anytime I'm moving the cookie, I'm making the cookie reappear. So I'll set the alpha back full, so it's going to display fully on the screen. And then I'll add some code later. When someone clicks on the cookie, the alpha is going to go to 0. You're not going to be able to see the cookie. It's going to be there, but it's just going to be invisible. So how do you handle clicking on the screen? If the mouse button is pressed, and I don't have an actual physical mouse, I'm just using a trackpad, and this mouse button left still triggers when I'm using my trackpad. Let's make a variable vector2, which will keep track of the mouse position when you clicked on the cookie or somewhere in the background of the screen where there wasn't a cookie. And the bounds of the cookie, my image is 100 by 100, but your image may be different. So our cookie bounds is going to be the X and the Y position of your cookie, plus we need to keep in track the width of the cookie and the height of the cookie. So anywhere there on that cookie will be in that rectangular cookie bounds. So we can check for a collision between the position where the cookie bounds are and the position where our mouse was clicked. And if our mouse click was inside that cookie bounds, this if statement will be true. And we can go ahead and set the alpha on that cookie color to 0, so it'll become invisible. Now we run this. Now every time we click on the cookie, it looks like it's disappearing. All that's left is keep track of the score for this game. So I'll start with a score of 0. Go ahead and update. Instead of just saying click on the food, I'm going to also put the score in the same draw text section. And to make that easier, I'm going to make an array of characters. If you're in C, you've got your array of characters with a hard-coded value there. I've got room for 49 characters plus the null character. I'll go ahead and sprintf right to that array of characters. Click on the food, or in this case it's a cookie, so I might as well just change it to cookie for this example. and a %D as a placeholder for the score. Now we can put score text in our draw text, and every time somebody had clicked on the cookie, we need to update that score. This almost worked, except the size of my font and the positioning of the click on the cookie score is equal to is not allowing me to actually see the score. So let me move things over to the left and change the font size from 50 to 30. And now we can see the score of our cookie. Excellent. If you are getting a warning when you're compiling the line that has sprintf, we can fix that by using a safer version of sprintf, snprintf. Just put the size of your array as the second argument to that function. All right, this is getting to be a long video, so I did some typing without recording. I changed, instead of just one texture with the cookie, I added 5 more pictures, including one monster that you don't want to click on. So I've got an array of 2D textures here. And then I've got a pointer to one of the 2D textures so I can alternate which item that we're changing the alpha to make it visible. So there are all 6 items in the game, but only one of them will be visible at a time, and as you click on it, it will disappear. So I'm going to start looking at the cupcake one, the one in position 1. I also am adding a game over element, so I made a bool. If you don't want to use bools because you're more C and CC, you can use an integer and have it 0 or 1. So if the game's over, I'm going to just draw the text game over, and that's all they're going to see. I move the begin drawing and the background up to the beginning of the while loop, and then either we're going to say game over and that's all they see, or we'll do the same code that we had before. We're going to randomly move this cookie, which isn't always a cookie anymore, and then we'll randomly also pick an image. Which one of these images do you want to display, and point at one of the images and change the alpha to make it visible each time through the loop. If you choose the monster, which is my 4th item in the array, or position 3, then I'll set that game over to true, and then the game's over. So those are all the changes I made. Oh, we've got to unload all the images. I actually have 6 of them. I could have put this in a loop. I probably should have put this in a loop, but in the interest of finishing this video quicker, I'm going to just save this and run it. And I'll click on the food. I also changed the time to give myself only a second to click on the different foods. I'm getting lucky and seeing lots of yummy foods. But if I click on the monster, I was a little too slow on that monster. Click on the monster and it should be game over. I'm waiting for the monster to appear one more time. There it is. Oh, game over. All right, I hope you enjoyed this. I really love this RayLib. Thanks, Ray. I'll probably do more videos on this topic in the future. Happy programming.